Here's something that nobody in any career counseling session, LinkedIn post, or self-help book has ever said to you directly. The reason your career feels like it's been running on low-grade grief for the last decade isn't because you made wrong choices. It's because the world you made those choices inside doesn't exist anymore, and the one that replaced it never asked if you were ready. You probably know someone who graduated in 1999 and spent the next 18 months watching their industry evaporate in real time. Maybe that was you. Or maybe you built something solid by 2007, a career you could actually see the shape of, and then 2008 arrived and quietly rearranged everything while you were paying your mortgage. And just when the ground felt stable again, the work moved home, the office became a memory. And somewhere around 2023, AI started quietly doing in 30 seconds what took you years to learn how to do in a day. 3 complete iterations of the working world. 1 lifetime. 1 nervous system trying to adapt to all of it. Psychologists have a name for what you've been living through. It's called occupational identity disruption, and it is fundamentally different from burnout, from career dissatisfaction, from lack of ambition, or poor planning. Those are the explanations people reach for first. They're all wrong. Here's what's actually happening. When you spend years building expertise, your brain doesn't just learn a skill set. It integrates that expertise into your identity at a structural level. Research from the Journal of Vocational Behavior shows that occupational identity, the part of your self-concept anchored to what you do and how you do it, activates the same neural regions as personal identity. What you do becomes part of who you are. Not metaphorically, but neurologically. So when the industry shifts, when the skill becomes obsolete, when the role disappears or mutates beyond recognition, it isn't just a career problem, it's an identity rupture. And the brain responds to identity rupture the same way it responds to any significant loss. But for Xennials specifically, this hasn't happened once. It's happened in sequence, and that matters enormously. There is a phenomenon in trauma psychology called sequential adversity, the experience of multiple distinct disruptions occurring before the nervous system has fully recovered from the previous one. Researchers studying longitudinal stress responses found that sequential adversity doesn't add up. It compounds. Each subsequent disruption hits a system already operating at a deficit, which means the third reinvention doesn't feel like a fresh start. It feels like being asked to run a race with 2 broken ankles while everyone around you acts like the starting gun just fired. And still, you adapted every single time. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting. There's a second concept at work that most career psychologists have never applied to this experience, even though they should. Pauline Boss, a family therapist and researcher at the University of Minnesota, spent decades studying what she called ambiguous loss. Her original research focused on families of soldiers listed as missing in action, people dealing with grief for someone neither confirmed dead nor confirmed alive. The loss was real, but uncertified. There was no funeral, no closure, no permission to stop hoping. What Boss found was that ambiguous loss is more psychologically destabilizing than confirmed loss, precisely because it offers no clear endpoint. The grieving process gets frozen, because there's nothing definitive to grieve. Now apply that to your career. You didn't watch your industry collapse in a single clear moment. It didn't announce its end. It just quietly stopped being what it was. The job title still exists, but the role is unrecognizable. The company is technically still there, but the culture evaporated. The industry is functioning, but the version you trained for, built relationships inside, developed genuine instinct for, that version is gone. No eulogy, no acknowledgement, just a new software subscription and a Teams notification. That is ambiguous loss, running silently right now underneath whatever professional language you're using to describe feeling stuck, undervalued, or inexplicably tired. Here's what makes Xennials specifically vulnerable to this. You're the only generation that was fully trained for a linear career model. You entered the workforce with a genuine mental map. Education leads to entry level leads to experience leads to advancement leads to security. That map wasn't irrational. It was based on evidence from the world that existed before you arrived. Your parents followed it, their parents followed it, it worked. And then the map became fiction, but you were already 3 steps into the territory. You had already made financial decisions based on that map, bought the house, taken on the loan, made promises to yourself and other people based on a trajectory the economy had quietly decided to discontinue. That's not poor planning. That's trust in a system that stopped being trustworthy without making an announcement. Millennials entered a workforce that was already unstable. Gen Z never expected stability, but Xennials built cognitive infrastructure around a world that was later demolished. Cognitive psychologists call this a schema violation at scale. You don't just have to change your plans. You have to dismantle the entire architecture of how you thought careers worked while still showing up on Monday morning. That is an enormous amount of invisible cognitive labor. And the cruelest irony is this: the very qualities that helped you survive the first disruption, adaptability, self-sufficiency, the ability to figure things out without a manual, those same qualities made you invisible because you didn't fall apart loudly. You quietly rebuilt, and the world interpreted your silence as proof that nothing serious had happened. But something serious happened. Your expertise was devalued. Your timeline was shattered. Your reference points were deleted. And you were handed a new set of tools with no acknowledgement that the previous ones had just been taken. Here's the reframe, and this is the part that actually matters. Researchers studying post-crisis career adaptation have identified what they call vocational resilience architecture. It's not the same as grit. Grit is pushing through one wall. Vocational resilience architecture is the ability to rebuild identity from scratch, to locate competence independent of context, to know who you are professionally, even when the context around that identity keeps being replaced. It develops specifically in people who've navigated multiple occupational identity disruptions in sequence. It can't be taught in a leadership retreat. It can't be developed in a masterclass. It is forged. You've been forging it this whole time, without anyone naming it. Which means the exhaustion you feel isn't the exhaustion of someone who failed to keep up. It's the exhaustion of someone who has rebuilt the house 3 times and is tired of pretending that's normal. It isn't normal. Most people build once. You've been in permanent reconstruction. And here's what the research suggests that nobody has thought to say to you. That capacity to lose the ground, to grieve without a funeral, and to build again without a blueprint is not transferable. It can't be trained into someone. It's specific. It's contextual. It's yours. The world you built your career inside was real. The skills you developed inside it were real. The professional identity you constructed around that work was real. The fact that the world deleted that version of itself and replaced it without announcement is not a reflection of your choices. It's not a judgment on your instincts or your effort. It's a geological event, and you were standing on the ground when it shifted. You didn't get it wrong. You got there first, in a version of the world that was already about to change, and you're still here, still adapting, still building, in a landscape that keeps changing shape underneath you. The question isn't whether you can survive another version of the working world. You already know the answer to that. The question is whether anyone around you is actually acknowledging what it cost you to survive the first 3. If this describes something you've been feeling but couldn't quite name before, that's exactly the point. Please subscribe if you want more of this. There are other videos that might connect just as deeply. I hope to see you there. And as always, please know you matter.